Gary.
Thank
You
you
so much. I
Good
just
to
called
see
you
you.
Glenn. I'm going to cut that out. So
No,
tell me
good to
about
see you
you
again.
and Glenn. So 10 years since we've seen each other.
Yeah, I think it must be.
Yeah,
Maybe
and
longer. Maybe longer.
but you've been in the game for 26
Yeah, we
years.
started Sintillate in 1999. So the
Wow.
last millennium, which
Wow. I
makes
was
it sound.
10.
Yeah, it's quite scary, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that is a long time to have a brand
Mm,
in an industry that's arguably completely transformed since
yeah.
COVID. So how have you kept Scintillate alive?
Well, we were. I mean, it's not been an overnight switch, but we've definitely evolved. I think previous to COVID, we'd gone from being a traditional nightclub promoter in the sort of noughties um, to hosting events abroad a lot, whether it was beach clubs or ski resorts. And we had noticed, with our following, some of them were getting older with us, whilst some, staying current with the younger market. But we noticed a bit of a trend for daytime parties. People would spend a lot more coming to a beach club in the day than they would at night, and it would be definitely a younger demographic out that were happy to stay out till 4 a.m. And certainly myself, sort of having children, in the sort of 13, 14, 15 kind of years, it was I started feeling like, as a parent, it's not something you wanted to be out till 5 o'clock in the morning anymore.
No.
But daytimes allowed you to do it. So certainly when I was going abroad, I was enjoying the daytime partying more. But there was never really an opportunity to do that in England because it wasn't set up for that. People saw that as something you did abroad. And it was nightclub based in London and late night. And then obviously COVID hit, and pretty catastrophically. And we didn't really know what to do because all the clubs were closed. We weren't allowed to do anything at all for quite a while. And so we sort of pivoted and kind of went with the cards we were dealt with. And that was, 6 people sitting down with a mask on in a restaurant, being able to listen to music with a DJ. And that actually kind of resonated quite well with our following. They quite enjoyed that. And, we started the bottomless brunches, and it's evolved rapidly and well, and we've done thousands of them now. We can't host about 10 a week at the moment, every Saturday.
Epic. And that's all in the UK, or
All in London, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we'd like to do more around the country, but it's all about finding the right staff in the right locations that want to do it with us, really.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
So what was it like when you first started Sintillate? How did it all birth?
God, well, I was modelling at the time, travelling the world, having this kind of lifestyle that, it's kind of unimaginable, really. It was very different then, what models were. It was very high fashion. It was sort of every week you're invited to film premieres and, private parties, and Dolce & Gabbana would be holding a party in Milan you'd go to and things. And I had a friend that I rented a room off, actually. And with Kevin, I don't know if you ever met Kevin, but anyway, he was a retired businessman, and he kind of, when I first met him, he came out clubbing with me a few times, and then as I travelled, I'd go to New York or Milan or Paris or Australia, he'd come along and party with me. And in '99, we were in Sydney for about 3 months, and I was getting a bit fed up because he was sort of on the beach all day long, and I was in a studio, and I was working, and I'd come back and say, like, God, it's all right for you. You're just getting to travel. He just said the idea. Well, look, I've had this great idea. You've got this amazing lifestyle and not necessarily the money that comes with it. And I've got the money and not the lifestyle. But the two of us together, we've got, I've got access to all this through you. How about we do that for other people? There was no social media back then. There wasn't, it was like, we don't know how to get into these parties. People like me, I don't know where the party's at. You do. You're invited to them. So maybe we can invite other people. So that's kind of how Sintillate came about, really.
Amazing. You became known as quite a powerful lifestyle brand really early on. It wasn't just about the party, was it? That's what you've been named as.
Yeah, very, very quickly. We felt it was very much about the lifestyle, a certain kind of person, a certain kind of mentality. It wasn't about how much money you had. or even how you dressed. It was really about an attitude, and you're quite aspirational, friendly person, and that fit in really well. So I invited all my sort of friends from the modelling industry and creatives. Kevin invited all his sort of business friends and acquaintances, and it mixed very well. He was older than me. He was 17 years older, so he had an older kind of group of friends. It was quite unusual because I remember the first night we did, which was the K-Bar in Chelsea, the manageress at the time was female, and she was like, oh my God, it was full of male models. Like, I've never seen so many good-looking guys in one place. I'm going to tell everybody, because it was so different. Everywhere else was full of good-looking girls, and that's what they were going for. But the next week it was a queue of girls down the street trying to get in for the guys. So, but we very early on kind of had quite a lot of sort of celebrities coming because we never really told anyone that they were coming, and we never told anyone when they'd been. So you would just be sort of sitting in the VIP room, and there'd be, oh, there's Beyonce, or there's Justin Timberlake, or it was, and it was also, it coincided very much with sort of the rise of sort of Britpop, and there was a lot of boy bands, girl bands. The soaps were a big thing back then. So, and everyone felt very comfortable coming, and just we treated everyone the same. So everyone felt very normal. We didn't kind of lay out the red carpet. They just came in as normal guests, and were able to act like normal people. And it was good. It was really good. It went very well.
Yeah. And how did you do this before social media? How did you start building such a following?
Well, funnily enough, one of Kevin's friends was he had a new media company, and Kevin said to me, I think we should have a website. And I said, don't be silly. And he was like, I think we should invite people by email. And I was like, what? Who's got an email? No one's, I don't know if that's going to take off. One thing that, I did think was a good idea, which he's again suggested, that because we used to go out and that we were often in the back of a magazine at a party, they used to do that quite a lot back in the day. And he always said, I enjoy seeing us at a party, and I think everyone else would do that. And why don't we get a camera? And digital cameras had literally just been invented. I think we bought one of the first ones, and we used to have like, a girl that we employed to go around and take photos of everyone. And then we put them on the website the next day, which had never been done before. And I think the Times did a piece very quickly. We were the website of the month saying what a new thing this was, that and literally we used to like pretty much crash the internet on a Monday, where we'd post all the photos and everyone would go on to see who they were with, and it was quite funny. And God, I mean, I'll be forever sad about it, but I remember we had a bulletin board, so kind of an early Twitter, Facebook type thing with it. And Kevin had sort of taken a step back after a few years and retired in Portugal, and I was still running things. And he was flying in, and he said, I just don't know about this bulletin board. It's people are so mean. They're saying, who's that girl? She's ugly, or she's good looking, or who's the hot one? I'm not sure about her friend. And he's like, it's not very nice. It was a lot of trolling. I mean, very, very, very busy, but it wasn't. We can see from social media, there's different types of people, and we had no filter. So he said, we're either going to have to pay someone to monitor this. Or we should just take it offline. We're a nice community, and the community that are represented in these people that are talking about it it's not representative of the parties and the atmosphere you get in the party. And I think it's like, if I was coming across and thinking of coming for the first time and saw that, I wouldn't want to come. As an older guy, I'd feel uncomfortable, and I don't feel like that at parties. So I said, well, I don't want to pay someone to do that. So just take it offline, which we did, and I mean, obviously since then someone did exactly that with Twitter. Someone did, our idea of the photos and stuff was, Facebook. So I think we were kind of well ahead of our time, but didn't really have the genius that Zuckerberg or anyone else did in realizing how to monetize those things. But that's how it started, really. Photos. Wow. And we saw sort of Sintillate as a brand. So we as a lifestyle. So we had Eat Till Late. So as a community, anyone that sort of worked in or had a restaurant, we would feature it on our website and recommend it. We had, Dress Till Late with a similar kind of thing with clothes shops. We, had a DJ agency. We just did everything around the community that came to our events.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So you were online community before it was even a thing.
we were social media before social media was invented. I think that was it, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you've obviously, because I remember knowing your parties years later, and I remember the pictures with the Sintillate at the bottom. So you obviously bought it back. You bought back that whole.
Yeah, I mean, we've never stopped. I mean, you can go on now and you can see the photos from '99 still on the online. Wow. I mean, it's quite interesting seeing the fashion and how things have changed. And I think the quality's obviously got better of the photos now, and the cameras they've become. But you know, it's also become possibly less important. Like we use professional photographers now rather than some our own staff. But obviously everyone's got a camera phone now, and everyone's got a video, which back then there was no such thing. I mean, I think when we got that phone, that camera at the time, you know, you could probably store, I think, something like 100 numbers on a phone, and SMS had just started. So it was long before, you know, modern technology allows everyone to take a picture at every event and post it. But people still do, you know, we still have a huge, you know, thousands of people every Monday logging on to check out their photos because they're nice, and, you know, people like to see a nice photo of themselves.
Yeah. And so you obviously worked with Kevin for a while, who had lots of experience in business, but you hadn't. You were in modelling, right?
Yeah.
How have you learned how to keep a brand sustainable even without Kevin and without having had this experience yourself?
Yeah, I don't know. I think you learn as you go along. I think it's hard. It's not easy. You have to keep adapting. I think you know, I've changed careers a few times. I used to be a podiatrist originally, so you know I had a background in studying anyway. I think that's something you always have to do: keep hungry and learning new things. So I've constantly tried to keep, you know, abreast of new technology and new things. But you know, the business side of it, I'm not sure. I guess you possibly have a business brain or not. And I've always worked hard, whatever I've done. Even as a kid, you know, I had paper rounds and things like that. So, you know, it's, I think there's I mean, I've had, you know, I've gone into a lot of other businesses. I've had a couple of nightclubs, you know, had a film festival, a music festival that was very successful until COVID, which was a shame. Another thing that kind of took, unfortunately. But we had one called Fusion Festival, which was 3 days, 30,000 people a day.
Wow.
In Liverpool, but that unfortunately got hit quite hard by COVID as well. So that was, but you know, I think it's having a hunger. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy being, you know, meeting people. And I have a lot of good staff. You know, over the years we've had hundreds, if not thousands, of really good staff that have worked for me and then have gone on to do amazing things. A lot of people in the industry come from what we've done. A lot of quite high up people in other companies now in hospitality work for us at some point. So a lot of it's down to the people that we work with as well.
And other than the sort of changes that we've already discussed with daytime trends becoming really big, what other big things have you seen change? Let's maybe talk about the UK for hospitality and nightlife.
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, the loss of nightclubs, I think it's horrendous, really. It's hard to contemplate something that I've known my whole life, you know, having, you know, grown up in an era where, you know, the first thing you do is try and get into a nightclub when you're like 15. Maybe get in when you're 16, or, you know, but, you know, and loved it. You know, we used to party 6 nights a week, and going through university where it was, you know, out every night, and then traveling the world, and, you know, as a model, and being in, you know, nightclubs all over the world. I think it's such a cultural thing. It's such an amazing way of meeting people, and whilst, you know, there's been, I mean, even pre-COVID, there was a shift in how people met, you know, dating and things like that through Tinder, etc. I think there's, you know, you can't take away from that, you know, the interaction you get, you know, actually meeting people in person. And I think that's one of the saddest things I've noticed with, you know, cultural changes. You know, people they've become more withdrawn. Even at the events that we host now, I see people sitting on their phone constantly. And then maybe just take a video of them looking like they're pretending they're enjoying themselves, and then go back to it. And whilst they are enjoying it, they've got to show everyone they're enjoying it rather than living in the moment. I'm sure you've been to festivals and you know, concerts where everyone's watching it through their phone. I mean, I think I went a couple of weeks ago to Imagine Dragons and was saying to my son, like, actually watch it with your eyes. Don't record it. You'll remember it if you watch it. You're not going to remember a recording. But there's a tendency to do that now, isn't there? Show everyone what we've done rather than live it.
And you never rewatch all your videos anyway. Why are they there?
How could you? I mean, thank God our phones hold so much storage, but I mean, constantly, that's what I tend to do on the phones these days. On the plane is go through and delete photos.
It's mad.
But I think there's a real loss of late night is whilst, there's a good element in the fact that we've become maybe healthier and sleep a bit more. I just, there's a young generation now that have never been to a nightclub.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so do you still work with any of the nightclubs, or have you diverted everything to days, haven't you, really?
Yeah, there aren't really any. There's maybe one or two nightclubs left, that we've worked with. It was changing anyway. Like from about 2015, we started doing more experiential stuff. So we worked with the likes, say, like Shaka Zulu, which was a huge restaurant. It was an amazing space. After that, we worked 5 years for 100 Water Street, which again, restaurant-led, so dining experience, turning into a more of a clubby vibe. So we moved away from hardcore nightclubs quite a while ago, and I think that was really with the just the shift in central London nightlife towards table clubs. It's not something I've ever really felt overly comfortable with. I think it was very much aimed at a foreign market where it's all aimed at trying to get a couple of guys to spend as much money as possible and fill the tables with girls. We've never really had that market. We have people that go out and work hard and want to spend their own money and look after themselves. And we've always had a huge, probably 70% of our following is women that feel far more comfortable coming and buying a table for themselves or paying to get into a club than being paid to come into a club or sitting there at sort of, being given drinks by guys. It's not really our demographic. But, the central London, I think probably with the rates and rise, the costs and everything, that they went down a route with, the clubs were getting smaller, the tables were getting more expensive, and it was just pricing a lot of the people that come to our events out of the market. No one can. The average person can't sit down and spend £200 on a night out, sitting and drinking vodka. You can't drink that much, or champagne. So we moved into spaces that we could make work for our guests, which were more of the restaurant-led spaces. Maybe from 10 o'clock at night were empty because people stopped eating, but they still had a 3 o'clock license. So we would then occupy that space with guests, and it worked very well. So. But I don't really know. I think, from what I can see, there tends to be more of festival-led spaces now, bigger, more warehouse type events. Or there's very small, very niche nightclubs, basement bars in central London that, are still the table clubs. And there's a real gap in between of that kind of the old days like we would have with, I don't know what you remember, but Pop and CC Club and Trap and Click and, a lot of those that were, say 400 capacity clubs you can pay and come in and drink at the bar and dance all night. There aren't many places like that. Do you know of any?
No, not in London.
No. Outside London is slightly different still, but I keep reading things. There's I think it's 2 or 3 closing a week at the moment, aren't there, with the. There's no support really from the government in any way, and it's a shame because certainly when we worked in Europe a lot, hospitality would get a different rate of VAT. They'd get a relief on VAT because they needed it, but we've not had that. We had some support from the government during COVID, but then it rapidly disappeared. Yeah. And even back in the financial crisis 2008, I think they dropped the VAT from 17.5% to 15%, and then quickly put it up to 20%, and it's never changed. So. It hits people, and I think it's really hit people very hard in nightlife. I can see it actually in the restaurant space at the moment. The increase in the minimum wage, the increase in national insurance, the increase in cost in fuel. It's really putting a lot of pressure on all the restaurant space as well.
And how much of it do you think is down to poorly run and poorly managed places too?
I mean, there's an element of that, I guess. It's very hard. I think some spaces are poorly run, but it's finding the right staff, being able to afford the right staff, being able to afford enough staff, which isn't always possible because, with limitations on, with the new minimum wage, with the extra costs. It's I think a lot of places run on a low, a harder budget. So maybe the service levels that were there aren't really there. I think there's also a shift in the type, and Brexit did huge damage, I think, personally to the industry, because we've gone from maybe more European staff that spoke English probably slightly better as a second language to people from further afield that have filled those spaces and maybe don't communicate quite as well, it not being, their first language or second language. It's things have, we've had a hard 10 years, 15 years.
Crazy.
10 years especially, say, put Brexit and COVID together.
Yeah.
And then this government put a nail in the coffin. It's tough.
And what do you think the government could do to support our industry better?
I think they've got to understand. I mean, licensing is a really difficult issue. Licensing is, and they put all the, it's there's got to be some agency. You might have, two people start arguing, and they in nightlife it can happen. But you say they go and have a fight. Those two people aren't to blame. The licensing blame the venue. And it's not necessarily the venue's fault. They've done everything they can. There's a real, they've come down very hard on licensing. It doesn't feel fair always. I think that the VAT rates could massively make a difference. It's an instant thing that could, lowering VAT would help everyone in the industry. There's not always like other industries. You're not buying as much as you can sell, so it's a very, people forget when you pay for a ticket to get into somewhere, 20% of that's going to the government. It's a large amount of money that's going every single time for something that you're not really be able to charge back. They just need to understand. I think there's been this constant lack of support over the last 10 years in particular. Have you seen much? What do other people say?
No, I mean, what I was going to ask you is, I know you do a lot overseas. Have you seen any places actually do it well and really support our industry well?
Certainly, I think we haven't since COVID, so I don't know if it's changed too much. Well, we did for a couple of years, but I think I was saying before, we lost a lot of the contracts we had for the last 20 years in Spain after
you were
COVID.
In Marbella, weren't you?
We pretty much created the market in Marbella. When we started there, it was like a little rooftop bar and the first one was on a beach with a sort of family disco set up. And it's grown around what we created. We took all our market from the UK, which you said we were very big at the time, and took everyone to Marbella, and it's gradually, most of the brands that are there now, most of the bars are owned and run by people that used to work for us that have stayed on or met people. And but yeah, I mean, 2021 we were red listed, couldn't go there, and they filled the gaps with other promoters or did it themselves, and we sort of lost all those 20 years of work. Unfortunately, it was a bit frustrating. But pre that, they just seemed supported. I mean, certainly with regard to licensing, if there was an issue, it wasn't the venue that to blame. I'm not saying that that's there are some, and there have been some very well run venues, and there are some badly run venues. But I think they treat everyone the same. In Spain, I think that there's a respect for the police that there isn't in England. So people don't mess around as much maybe. But yeah, the support that they get with regards to the the reduced rate of VAT, I think is a huge difference. When you're paying out, I think it's 10% in Spain. You're paying out 10% VAT instead of 20 on food. I think alcohol's still 20, but food and tickets is 10. So that's a huge difference to a promoter or a restaurant.
And so, what was it like for you? I mean, I remember how big you were in Marbella. I remember going to one of the parties.
Champagne spray from
Yes, it was a champagne spray.
Yeah.
And it's kind of what you became really known for at one point, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think we invented day clubbing before day clubbing existed again.
When I think Ocean Beach is at the ocean, there's this champagne spray. They think they
I know.
Invented that.
Well, it's because Tony and Wayne used to come to it, and they've been very clever in the fact that they've seen it and they've gone, we want a bit of this, and then they found the site in Ibiza, and they opened O Beach. They originally called it Ocean Club, which there was a little bit of a thing, and between both venues, so they ended up being O Beach. But they've taken the concept that we created and they've done it 100 times better in a way, in the fact that Ocean Club was limited by its location. They had like a local politician nearby, didn't like the noise, that complained all the time. They couldn't do so in the early days we would do great shows and have dances on the roof, and it was crazy. And then gradually it was, I suppose that you can go back to licensing for that, but they'd get the police coming down, so it's a bit noisy. And whereas Ibiza, they've got the crane shows and the dance and the loud. They seem to very clearly get on and very Dubai well now. With the local market, and Dubai as well. So they've, it's. I think I saw Tony say somewhere that they took what they've seen elsewhere and they did it better. And I think that's can only be as true. When you are a promoter, there's only so much you can do. When you're a venue, you can do a lot more. You get 100% of the money minus what you pay the promoter. We're only getting a percentage of the money. So what you can put into an event isn't necessarily the same as if you own it. So they've done a spectacular job. But I think in the early days, when we launched, when we first started Ocean Club, it was a public swimming pool. Wow. You paid €2 to get in and take your sandwiches. And I think the following year they sold it to someone for quite a lot of money, and then 2008 they sold it for 10 times that, based off of the back of the parties we were doing. But we would end up spraying 6,000 to 8,000 bottles of champagne in an afternoon, and it wasn't cheap stuff. It was Verve. Wow. It was the biggest outlet of Verve Club in the world at one point. And
what made you think of this idea of spraying champagne?
It was a friend of ours. It was his. It was his 50th or 40th. God, it's so long ago. Maybe it wasn't his 50th. But we were doing, say, the parties at the pool, and he said, could he come down and celebrate with, say, 40 friends, buy 40 bottles of champagne, and maybe get on the microphone and do a bit of a song, and each spray their bottle like they do in Formula One. So we thought, well, great, 40 bottles of champagne, brilliant. And they did it, and then there was a big group next to them and said, can we do that? And that was basically it. That was like, oh, this is a good idea. So the guys that were working with us at the time, Spencer and Marcio, they kind of put the idea together with Tops, who was the director. So it was a bit of a collaboration. We all kind of put our heads together and created the champagne spray, where you would come and you would buy a bed and you got X amount of champagne to spray, which came in boxes, and you got some that were cold, and that, it was certainly a bit cheaper in the early days, but as demand went, we used to have 2,500 people there.
Wow.
I think the culmination was, the busiest one we ever had was probably the Jubilee weekend, which was, it was incredible. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, really good.
And do you still do these now?
Anywhere? We don't, no. Again, we wanted to, and then COVID came and it wasn't seen to be, Ocean Club said to us they didn't think it was the right look for the people to be spraying champagne on each other, and they then chose not to open that summer. And it's just never really got off the ground again. They do it in Ibiza, obviously, but that's a couple of guys that used to work for us that took that concept to Ibiza instead. We carried on. I mean, we probably were most successful overall. We had a partnership with Nicky Beach in the whole of Spain. So we did that for many years. But again, they sort of pivoted their business model in 21 and went to, they kind of partnered with hotels. So they didn't want to do the more the crazy parties anymore. So they kind of went on their own. So a lot of things happened all at the same time for us.
Wow. And I guess as a service provider, mindset wise, you have to kind of accept you might bring something in and it may not stay with you providing it like that throughout the whole sort of business career.
Yeah.
How has that been, like, on an emotional level, as well as, like, can you do anything practically to protect that, and have you? God, I remember I tried to copyright champagne spray, and they weren't having any of it. No, they weren't having it. It's flattery. If I look at
the journey we've been on, we've always tried to stay ahead of the game. Like, for example, something very similar, like, it's very simple, like having a saxophonist in a nightclub, you know, and sparklers on bottles. I think we first did that in 2003 in Marbella, and it was at a club called Pangea, and Pangea was in London, and we loved it. So we started doing it at all our events. And then as we went around the country, we were Liverpool and Leeds and Birmingham and Nottingham, and, you know, every city really, we were doing events, and we did it every one. And people were like, oh, you're the guys that do the sparklers and the saxophone and the violin, because no one did it. But now you wouldn't really go to a nightclub and not see that.
Yeah.
But so it was, again, we were ahead of the game, but then you're like, oh, I wish they weren't doing it. But everyone does, because you can't stop it. And I think, you know, we've always stayed ahead of the curve, but there's only so many things you can do, you know, like what can you do? So the one thing that we always kind of try and maintain is to keep the right kind of quality with the crowd, keep the right service element, keep our staff happy in the fact that they're, the way we deal with our customers, you know, it is very much, you know, we're a word, we're a concept, we're not bricks and mortar. So what we give is customer service. So we try our best to make sure the customer experience is happy. So yeah, it is the best they can have. So if, for example, they come to one of our brunches and they're not happy with something, rather than go away not happy, we try our best to sort of be the middlemen between them and the venue. We want our customers happy and want the venues happy. And so we kind of try and, you know, curate the better musicians, the DJs, and we kind of have a certain style of music we play, and we've always played that we know is attractive to sort of everyone. But yeah, it's difficult, you know. Even like we used to give away CDs in Marbella, and we called them, you know, summer sessions, you know, Marbella sessions, and then one of our DJs decided to go to Ministry and do that himself before we had the chance to do it. So when we launched our album, it was they were already selling well. So you know, it's hard to it can be frustrating, and it can be a bit like, you just got to keep going. You know, that's the hard thing. I think, you know, why we're around 26 years later is sort of persevering and keep going.
Yeah.
It's very easy to not.
And you really have. How do you look for these gaps or this next thing?
We talk, we look, we learn. We're trying to constantly listen to what people want. I think more than anything, it's trying to see what we would enjoy. You know, I'm still certainly older than when I started, but it's always been about, you know, my lifestyle. It certainly was when we started, what I was doing and what I enjoyed and where I would go, and feeling that was what other people might enjoy. And I think that's still very much the case. What do we enjoy? You know, we really, at our stage of life, you know, we've got a young team working for us that are in their early 20s that love bottomless brunches because they've never really experienced anything else. And we've got our older team, you know, I'm in my 50s now. We've got staff in their 40s and 30s that also all love the bottomless brunch element because it's daytime. I mean, we do nighttime brunches as well, but you know, it's what we all enjoy. So I think it's really about feeling what we enjoy. There are other brands doing really well in, you know, sort of raves or festivals, or, you know, but that's not something I'm really, you know, I've never really done that or been that kind of person. I like going to a concert, but it's a different market. So we've always gone with what we're comfortable and what we enjoy, which is more of the high-end luxury feel of an event rather than maybe a field or a warehouse. And, you know, dancing. I'm not a good dancer.
So I guess without sounding like really cliche, it's like you stay true to who you are in the building of your brand and your business almost at all times as much as you can. Yeah, definitely. While still like listening to your team and they tell me what they like and I ignore them. No, that's just not true. No, but it's you also get to know if it's working. Obviously, if it's not working, you know, that I think in the last 5 years, you know, certainly the brunches, we've had a couple of ones that haven't worked as well. Not often, but that tends to be location.
other things, like, for example, some things that can be frustrating, we'll start something, and it's always been the same with the parties. They get very successful. And I think it's not so much with the restaurants, but certainly with the nightclubs, we used to remember when, they'd come to you initially and be very, very keen to have you help, and it would get busier and busier. And then they'd go to a point where they get making the money that they think this is great, and how can we make more? And we can't make more. Well, how can we cut our costs? And they're like, oh, the promoter's taking a bit. Let's get rid of the promoter. We can do it ourselves now. And there'd always be that, I'd say there's always a look in their eye where you go, oh, okay.
This is the day.
This is the day. This is when it's going to happen. They're going to want to change the deal. They're going to do something, which is frustrating because I'm a very much and always have been a handshake person and a man of my word. And there's not that many people around like that. The difference probably that's been since COVID, I think, is with the restaurants, is that we're occupying spaces that aren't used. So we're doing, say, maybe the venues we do in Covent Garden, we do between the lunchtime and the pre-theatre trade, so they would be empty. So it's a great partnership, and it really works for everyone. And most of the events we've been doing since then have been about working for everyone rather than, I think, nightclubs probably is a bit more difficult.
And I think when there's more of a survival mentality, or people are a bit more ruthless or counting pennies more. Yeah. I mean, my business is service provision. I know the look in their eyes when they're like, we're going to go in-house. And you're like, cool. And you just go, I'll be here in 18 months when you need to come back.
Yeah.
Because it's often what happens,
right?
It's
so frustrating.
They don't know.
They never get it back. It's like, but they're the ones that you put in the memory bank to use when you're talking to other venues going, they tried that and they tried that and look what happened. Remember them? They've closed down since. It's, it's often, I mean, I can go whether it's Nicky Beach or Wardle Street, it's often when you build something, you build a relationship with the venue as well and all the staff. And when you start, say, the managers, they say, oh, the revenue's going up and the service charge is going up and the tips are going up and we're doing really well, and they're getting a pat on their back from their boss, et cetera, and they move up the chain. I'm talking over years, because most of the venues we work with is several years. And then it gets to a point where they get promoted or they move on, and a new guy comes in and goes, how much are we paying them? Yeah. And you're like, well, we earned that. You were like that. And well, we're not anymore. We can do it without you. And that's usually the point when it changes, and then you've kind of start justifying yourself, and because all the staff that remember what it was like have gone. I mean, I guess that's natural, but what's frustrating is that they do change it, and maybe we don't work there anymore, and then you see the decline in the venue, you see it and you feel like, God. And sometimes they come back and it's too late because you've missed that, you've lost where it was. And I think that does happen. It's not happened as much recently, a couple of times recently still, and frustratingly, when we build something up to be really successful and then you're like, oh, really? But some of the restaurants obviously used us as post-COVID, it was, it's a stopgap. Let's get some money in whilst we're building, and then they don't need it anymore. But there are always, as you know, more venues, more people, other businesses that need help. So I mean, sometimes it's quite overwhelming how many businesses do need help out there at the moment, and it's getting harder.
And so, in terms of your actual internal team at Sintillate, how many people are part of the team?
God, it's not big. Full time, I think we've got 6.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's not huge. We've got a part-time team of around 10. But it's we've only ever really functioned on a full-time team of about that, and then we used to have about 15 staff in Marbella, 5 or 6 in Mallorca, 5 or 6 in Ibiza, but without those, obviously it's shrunk down. But we're looking. We just went to Barcelona a couple of weeks ago, looking at that. We're looking at Marbella again next year, Mallorca, but it's hard because times have moved on, and it's different. It's a different market now. So yeah.
And you work with your brother as well. Do you still? Yeah. How's that? How did that happen? And how's it dynamic?
It's difficult for him, I think. Really difficult for him.
Younger brother?
He's younger, 2 years younger. He looks 10 years older, I'll say. Sorry, Glenn. No, look, it's been great. I think there's it's given me of a level of comfort and support, you know, because it's family.
Yeah.
My sister used to work for us for many years as well. She doesn't now. She's married. She's moved up north. But you know, we had that backbone of the business. So when Kevin stepped aside, and Glenn had started a couple of years before, he came in and he loved the nights. I mean, I've never, you know, he really enjoyed the nightlife, and he's adapted with it, and he's sort of a kind of ever-present face as well. With Craig, you remember Craig?
Absolutely.
So Craig's still like running things really. He's like instrumental in most of the things we do. He's been with us for 14 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's rare in our industry.
Really rare. And Angie, who is sort of our office manager, she's been with us since 2000.
Wow. And how have you kept people with you for that long?
Hopefully they're happy, I guess. Angie did leave in COVID, and then she asked if she can come back because she you know, she didn't enjoy where she worked as much. So hopefully I'm a nice enough boss, I think. But I think with the job we do, it's different every day, and it's challenging every day, and it's hard, but it's rewarding at the same time. So we really enjoy, you know, I enjoy meeting people, and I mean, my memory's not as good as it was, but Glenn's amazing with his memory, actually. He remembers everyone's name, where he met them, when he met him. I can't. I always say I'm just mate or babe. Like I have no idea. I can't remember anything. But you know, it's just evolved so much. It's so nice now, and whilst it might sound funny for people, you know, like people go, "Oh, that must be awful." People come up now and go, "Oh my God, my mum used to come to your parties."
Wow.
And whilst that's kind of like, oh, it's a bit of a shock to the ego, equally it's lovely because you know, I know so many people that got married because of meeting at the events. Unfortunately, you know, people that have died that I've known that have come to the events. You know, it's become not just a lifestyle but part of my life, and I think that's the same with all of us. It's part of their lives too. We are Sintillate, and that's what's kept the brand going.
So how does the following, do they stay connected? Like they come to, how they choose the events to come to?
Well, we still have a huge newsletter database of people that subscribe. So we message out every week with what's on. Social media obviously has become a big thing, Instagram, TikTok. So we've kind of embraced all those. So we still use those a lot. WhatsApp, messages. It's very funny when you get an iMessage these days. You kind of don't read it for 4 days because forget to check them. Like, who uses it? It's usually my mum. Like, Mum, use WhatsApp. But yeah, we I always say total promotion. We every avenue that's available to us, we try and communicate with our guests. So we have a lot of people finding us just through Google. But yeah, word of mouth is probably our best tool. You know, people that remember us. Like we have 50ths now, 50ths, 40ths. You know, people that have come, you know, 20 years ago. Look at yourself.
I know.
Yeah.
It's mad.
Yeah. There are, you know, I think when we started, you think if people were 20 then, they're going to be approaching 50 now.
So do you see yourself doing this till like the end of your career?
The end of days, God.
Do you see it that long?
It's something I've thought about a lot, and maybe I would have said yes, and maybe I would have said no at other points. I think it's something that I need to do. Like I want to do because I feel proud of it. I'm hoping, like, 2 boys, one's 11 and one's 8. So I'm thinking, in another 8 years, maybe they'll, you know, be interested in coming and taking it on a bit. Maybe they won't though. So I don't know. It's as a brand, it's not. Although it's based on what I enjoy and what we enjoy, it's never been about me as such. It's not Gary Sewell parties. It's Sintillate as a brand. So most people that come don't know me anymore. You know, they know the brand. So I think that's important that, you know, we stay current and we constantly evolving. It's not, you know, for some people it's a 26-year-old brand. For some people they've discovered it the first time this weekend. You know, so that's important as well. So I don't know. I don't see any reason to leave, but I guess if I'm on a Zimmer frame, I might have to. it hasn't stopped others, has it? Look at Wayne and Tony, and there's a few others in the industry that have been around long enough.
I mean, we see it now, don't we? Like, I've got Brandon Block on in a few weeks. Just had Danny and Andy from Clockstock. They're in their 50s.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You know, I think the people that are still around are hungry for it as much as ever and enjoy it. And I think the thing is, there's a certain level of success that's enjoyable when you do an event. There's nothing better than looking around a room and everyone's there because of you, and everyone's having the best time, and people come and go, oh my God, you know, what a great day. That's a really nice feeling. It really is. So, yeah.
I often find people in our industry that stay in our industry love the human connection side and being part of facilitating that. And it does give you such a buzz.
It really does, yeah.
I don't think you could take that out of you. So it's how then do you then play that out if it's not doing that? Yeah.
I know. I you know, actually all our staff, you know, they always say, oh, it's my holiday coming up, and they can't wait to go on holiday. And they all say, oh my God, I was thinking, oh, I don't want to miss Saturday, or I don't want to miss the party, or oh, I feel, or I'm just laid on the sun lounger thinking about, oh, I wish I was at that. So even though we're working, there is this sort of feeling that you're missing out, that it's going to be a great event. And most of our events are really good. You know, that's why people keep coming back. So I say all of them, not most. But yeah, I don't feel, you know, I feel kind of younger now than when I probably was older. When I was younger. I've still got a lot of energy for it.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, I think certain things do take it out of you. Like COVID, it did. I felt a little bit, it hit everyone in our industry so hard. It was so frustrating. And particularly when, you know, I had a bit of a medical background, I just didn't agree with, in any way, with the measures they took. I think it was totally wrong. And it was very frustrating having that medical understanding of what they were doing and looking at our industry thinking, oh, it doesn't make any sense. Nothing makes any sense what you're doing, and seeing all the business around us just collapse. And many people like myself got no personal support. You know, the directors, the people that needed it, that are keeping these businesses going, they're the ones that really suffered. And the businesses closed down as a result, and it's been hard. So, but luckily we're through it. You know, that's the main thing. You know, that I guess sometimes the strongest survive, and we're through that now. But that I did lose a little bit of my enthusiasm for it then, understandably. You know?
I think we all did. Yeah. And your words earlier, I think, to keep going. That's really where that kicks in, isn't it? It's like, can you keep going even in those times?
Yeah.
And where does your brand go after that?
Exactly. Yeah.
But you guys are still here.
Yeah.
And so where is it that people could like check in with events that you have coming up? I know you said you've got some overseas plans maybe.
We have. Well, everything's like, look, our website's the same as it's always been, which is Sintillate.com, which is Sintillate. But everything's on there. Everything's on our social media. We host currently bottomless brunches every Saturday, day and night in lots of really nice venues. We've got some really nice ones coming up, but they're all rather central in the city and Covent Garden. We're looking at some further afield. We want to branch out more. Again, like we found a great venue recently in Liverpool that really wanted to work with us, but we couldn't find any staff, which is mad, isn't it? It's quite difficult to find people that want to really take on, you know, back in the day. Like we would do Manchester and we'd advertise and we'd have 3 full-time people running an event for us up there as a partnership. It worked very well, you know, every city around England, but people just, I don't know, don't seem to want to get involved now.
Not as much in our industry, no.
No, easier to go on Love Island or something like that, or hope to anyway. Quicker way to success. But no, so the brunches are doing really well. We have lots on. We do plan on being abroad again next summer. So I think watch this space. Everything's on the website always. But we want some sun again. It's been such a big part of who we are and what we've been as a brand to people. And I think, interestingly, we'd probably be busier than ever now because of the demographic we have in England. You know, we've tended to be very busy in England, and then, you know, when the financial crash happened in 2008, we went very big abroad, and then we kind of came back in England, and then we've gone back again, and now we're back in England. Whereas I think like we have so many. There's about 1,000 people every Saturday now join us across our events.
Wow.
So it would be great to get something where they join us abroad as well.
Yeah, we'll watch this space.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Pleasure.
It's so good to have someone who has been in the industry for so much time, and I think there's so much wisdom to learn from you. So
I hope so. I hope somehow came across. I don't know if I sound all doom and gloom, but there's a lot of positivity, I think, towards. I just, I really hope that hospitality gets a bit of a break at some point, and we can kind of create new ideas and concepts.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, Sarah. Thank you.